there are a couple of folks, members who emailed and said they can't be here tonight, but they wanted to be, and so we will have this recording available. I think to everyone. I'm going to see how to do that. Um, we'll make the recording available. Okay, so the DEI strategic plan. I'm going to pull that up. It is also on our AAUW California website. Has anyone had trouble finding this? It's okay if you have. It took me a while, but it is under, you can see the breadcrumbs here. It's under support for branches and then under DEI, and then it will take you to the strategic plan. I don't want to go through all of it right now because we did talk about it uh, for quite some time in late spring, and then it was published, launched in the summer, and we got some feedback. We got some great feedback, and so we incorporated it and made some changes to the plan. Um, First, we made clear what DEI stands for because we did get some questions on that. We also changed this statement here on where do we want to go. We had put that we want to attract younger generations as they tend to bring in more diversity and have less bias. That was disputed, and so the less bias part, and so we took that out and left it as younger generations for more diversity. And if there's something I missed, Sherman or Carmen, let me know. Um, but here on the first strategy, I learned at our committee day meeting in August that financial literacy is not the term used anymore in the world of finance. That literacy can be seen as somewhat derogatory, as if people can't read or it's associated with that level of schooling. I'm not sure that's exactly the reason, but I was told the preferred term is financial education, not financial literacy. So I changed that. And also in committee day, I met with all of the committees to talk about how to integrate DEI and what they're doing according to this strategic plan. And so our finance chair, Kathy Ford, our state board of director focused on finance, is going to look more into financial education programs that we can use with our branches that can bring in, hopefully, some new members and some more diversity. So those are the revisions we made over the summer. And part of this strategic plan, as you may have seen now or you may remember, is doing a branch survey. Now, we used the DEI environmental scan that's on the national website last year. We asked those who were DEI chairs or coordinators of their branches to fill out that environmental scan. Um, we didn't get the best response rate, but it gave us a baseline that actually helped us create the DEI strategic plan. And so now we'd like to do a different kind of survey, an easier survey, I think, that you could easily do this fall with your branches. And I'm going to pull that up, and then we'll talk about how best to share it with everyone. Give me a minute. So it's a Google Doc and it is drawn, the questions are drawn directly from our strategic plan. And this helps give us a baseline as far as the strategic plan of what are your branches already doing, that's aligned with the strategic plan, and what more could you do? And we don't expect most branches to be able to say yes to all of these or to be able to have all or even most of their programs aligned with the DEI strategic plan. But this gives you and your branch some goals to work towards based on the strategic plan. And that's part of the purpose of this. So you can start using this survey and the responses to make your branch more aware of the strategic plan and what more all of you could be doing in line with the strategic plan. So a lot of these are yes, no questions. So hopefully it won't take you long to fill it out. You may need to bring in your programming chair or committee to help, maybe your membership chair or committee, but unlike the environmental scan, this is not just asking about your group's demographics. It's really asking about what you're planning to do in line with the strategic plan. So the first question is, do most members of your branch know what DEI means? That's yes, no, you can guess. You don't have to ask every member of your branch. You're making a guess. How is your branch making use of the AAUW DEI toolkit? It's linked there. And if you're not, that's okay. You're probably not alone, but now you and your branch hopefully know it's there, and maybe you will start making more use of it. Has your branch discussed the AAUW California DEI strategic plan? Carmen, Sharman, and I know from looking at some newsletters that yes, some branches have, but many haven't. So again, here's sort of a prompt to get you going there. Another yes, no question. How many branch programs and interest group activities planned for this next year align with the DEI strategic plan? This will take a little more of an answer. And this is where you may have to bring in some of your other members in your branch. But again, it gets the discussion going. Number 5, please briefly describe how your branch's programs and interest group activities align with the strategic plan. So following from 4 will be a number. Again, it can be an estimate. And 5 will be talking about the alignment. Following from that, the equity lens and the JAB checklist are also on the AAUW California website under diversity and branch tools. And so again, 6 and 7 is just asking if your branch is even aware of these and have they discussed them or used them at all. The one question here related to demographics, and it's not what are the demographics, but how are you tracking demographic data? As in identity characteristics or social identities, race, ethnicity, age, occupation, etc. for your members. And this has been a topic of some discussion this summer on every level, national, state, and branch. And so we might be talking about that more later in this meeting and perhaps in future meetings as well. There's something in the chat. No, I'm sorry. You didn't have to do the survey right now. I'm just showing you the questions so that you can fill it out later. you have the next 2 months. We're hoping that all of you here and most of our branches will complete this survey by November. If you can complete it now, that's great. And I will put the link to this document in the chat when we're done going through it. But for now, we're just going through the questions. My computer's saying my internet connection is unstable. Can everyone still see and hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Um, you don't have to track number 8. A lot of branches don't, but that's why I'm actually asking the question of how are you tracking? If you're not, then you can say you're not. A lot of branches are not. But again, this to get your branch thinking about that, how you might do that. And I can give you some specific ideas there as well. And how can our team, our DEI team at the state level, best support your branch? So another short answer essay. Yeah, Stacy, we're going to be talking about that in just a few minutes. The best way to distribute this survey. So, yes, thank you. And is there anything else you would like to add that you want us to know? So, for now, for those of you here, and if that works for you, I can put the link in the chat. But before I do, are there any questions about the survey other than what was in the chat? Okay, let me go ahead and share this. So I put this in the chat. What I can also do, and please weigh in, especially Charmin, as I'm still learning the processes at the state level. What I can also do is have the communications team send this out as an email to all, everyone on the DEI peer group list, all chairs.
I think that'd be the easiest to do. You can just send it to them and ask them to send it to the peer group. And then that way, anyone who's not here still gets it. And that's the easiest way to get, they can also email it back to that same link.
Great, great. That'll take a few days, but that's what we'll do. Stacy?
Yeah, if you just send out this document and everybody starts typing in, we're going to type over each other.
Very good point. Yes. So
Or you can put it
you
into
can make, yes, I should say that here. And then I'll also put it in my instructions when it goes out in an email. If you make a copy, in Google, if you know how to do that, you can make a copy of it and then, just email the link to the copy you filled out to, I believe it's AAUW diversity or diversity at AAUW.
Yep. Would it be easier to do it, put it into a Google form, Wata?
Yeah, we had talked about that and I
Well,
could.
if you put it into a Google form, then you get the responses in a spreadsheet, and it's a lot easier to look at all the responses by question.
I can do that.
Google Forms all the time, so I would recommend that. So you're not going through individual things all the way through.
Right. No, I use Google Forms a lot too. When we had talked about it, the DEI team earlier, we thought it might be easier for folks to use a Google Doc because it's more like Word. But I'm happy to send it out in a Google form. And if anyone's having trouble, then I can follow up with them in a Google Doc or a Word doc even. I think that's what we ended up doing with the DEI environmental scan, at least my branch. So I'd like to give everyone ample time to do this. This is our fall survey. Fall is a 3-month season, but we're going to say November. I'll decide on a date, sometime before Thanksgiving. Because I understand, and my branch right now in Santa Maria also is finding we cannot plan all of our programs for a whole year ahead of time anymore. So we're doing in 6 months at a time. And so your fall survey answers may be based on the programming you have so far. You may not have all of it yet. So by November you might, but anyway, I will set a date in November for completing this, and I'll get it out there by email. And again, if you bring it up with your board or the rest of your members, and people are starting to feel like, oh my gosh, we were supposed to do all of this. We didn't know. And no, you're not, because it's brand new to all of us. It's more of, again, a gauge, a baseline, a map of where to go from here with DEI, so that all branches are starting to implement the strategic plan in the ways we have on the state website. So it's not meant to be prescriptive. Right. So let me stop talking for a bit. And who would like to share what their branch has been doing in relation to DEI? And we're going to add this time for this year. How does it align with the strategic plan? And I will pull that up again so we can refer to it. And this is the direction. This is not to be sticklers, right? Or to say that what we've been doing in terms of DEI is wrong. It's not that at all. It's saying that we want to move the needle a bit on what state branches have been doing in relation to DEI, in line with the plan. And we want DEI eventually integrated into everything that we're doing, ultimately to increase membership and the longevity of our organization. So, would anyone like to share? If not, Carmen and I are ready to share what we've seen in branch newsletters, because we've been keeping up with them. But would anyone like to share? Here, why don't I put the link to this in the chat as well, so you can take a look. It's not easy, I know, to say right away how what your branch is doing aligns. Carmen, do you want to talk a bit about what you've seen in the newsletters? Maybe some things you've seen that do align with the strategic plan?
Sure. I was impressed that there are some branches out there that are taking advantage of the local events in their community, and they are setting up tables or booths at those events and handing out information about the organization so that they can perhaps get more members. But it was a great way to be visible, because a lot of the communities don't even know that we exist as an organization. I saw a couple of branches that have initiated partnerships with their local colleges and They have some speakers that are talking with those colleges, and they're also setting up booths, and whether it's voter registration or some other type of event in the community, they're doing that, and they're doing it very, very well. So I was impressed. A few other branches are inviting some speakers to talk about issues that pertain to us as women. And I thought that was very, very good, because it means that they're reaching out and trying to bring in some additional information. So those are a few of the things that I have seen in the September newsletters from branches around Northern California.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, Carmen's looking at newsletters coming from Northern California. I'm looking at Central, Southern, and Southern California. Charmin looks at all of them. So anything we miss, she brings to our attention.
That's true. That's too many newsletters.
It is. It's a lot of newsletters. It's
But
a lot. All of you do
can I
not.
share one thing? I spoke at the Amador County, or the Amador branch, on Thursday. Here, I'll take my video. This last Thursday, and they actually just passed, along with their branch strategic plan, they passed a DEI strategic plan for their branch as well. That's different from this one. So they went and took a step further and looked at things they'd like to do as a branch. I don't have a copy right in front of me, but I thought that was really impressive, because a couple of years ago, this branch wasn't doing anything. And so they've added a lot of focus on where they're meeting, how they're meeting, and how they're interacting with their community. So I thought that was great.
And is that Bonnie?
Mhm.
So Bonnie has been she won't be the coordinator, I guess, this year. She's kind of trying to find someone else that will kind of spread the wealth a little bit and spread the love. But she's the one that's been the coordinator for the last couple of years. So yes.
Okay. I was just checking to see if she was here. That's why I asked. But anyone else here from the? I'm sorry.
She's on a trip. She actually postponed her trip by 2 days so she could meet me in person. We'd never met in person. So it's great to
Oh,
meet her in person. So
anyone else here from that branch, Amador? Any other branches have their own DEI strategic plan? That's the first I'd heard of a branch having one. If they are willing to share, I'd love to share it in one of our meetings and talk about it, or maybe Bonnie or someone else from the branch could present it. And
let me check and see if I can find it.
yeah, Carmen, did you?
One of the other things, as I was reviewing my notes, is that I saw a couple of branches had put together like a calendar. It was a program calendar, a DEI calendar. And I looked online to find one that was pictorial, because I'm a visual person, but I couldn't find one that I really liked that would map out events. And I thought that would be a wonderful tool for branches to plan their activities for the year. It's like it's one more tool, and I know that the national website has a lot of tools, but I saw this being done at a couple of the branches, and I think it helps them with their program planning throughout the year, so that they take every opportunity to explore diversity of different kinds.
And we have a calendar as well. Well, it's not called a calendar, but it's a list of observances on the state website, and I can pull it up here in a moment so everyone can see where that is. And I think I just saw the Whittier branch's latest newsletter for October had just the fall. They had a list of the fall. The state branches one, and theirs are not very visually appealing. maybe that's a goal to get
I
to,
think,
but
yeah, I might have to design one myself, but at any rate, when I saw that a couple of the branches were referring to events that were happening throughout the year, I thought it was a really good way to start your program planning at the beginning of the year, and it would be helpful for the DEI coordinators to use that.
definitely. Yes.
I just put the Amador strategic plan in the chat.
Oh, great. Oh, good. Okay. Nice. I will download that for later. Um, sorry, new computer, new job. Just got this computer today. Oh, I'm saving it now. All right. Great. So I want to go back to what Carmen was saying, that she saw in Northern California branches in terms of the strategic plan. What I heard was that branches who are tabling and partnering with other organizations are implementing this strategy, right? Specifically of collaborating with other groups on an ongoing basis that I have on this screen. And the ongoing, I want to emphasize that. And we talked about that a lot, Charmin, Carmen, and I in writing the strategic plan that it collaboration, right, and ongoing is more than inviting one speaker one time from a group to represent that group and speak to a branch. It's then maybe going to that group's events or supporting that group's events, or maybe going to one of their meetings or meeting in their space or wherever they regularly meet. And so that reminds me of, I've taught DEI certificate courses for K-12 educators, and something that I ask them to do, and I don't follow up with them. I just ask them to make a commitment or a pledge to themselves that at least once a year, maybe it's once every 6 months, at least once a year, that they will go to an event, a meeting, some kind of forum, right, where they are very much the minority, either visibly or in language or whatever it is, that they are the a readily identifiable minority, and go and just observe. Don't try to um, intervene or kind of take up a lot of space, but just be there and uh, observe and sit with what that's like. How does that feel? Maybe you come back and journal about it or reflect on it and think about what that's like. And then think about how for some of us, myself included, that's almost our everyday. Is having to be in a space where we are clearly not in the majority. And I think it's a good exercise. Um, I think it helps to promote cultural humility, which is something we're still very much emphasizing. And so, specifically this month, and if you or your branch is already doing something in this regard, please speak up. I would ask you to do that for Hispanic Heritage Month, which just started Sunday. And I had that in the board to board newsletter as well. You as an individual or you as your branch could collaborate with other organizations or go to events specifically related to Hispanic Heritage Month. The Mexican Independence Day events are probably done at this point. They were over last weekend, but maybe not. But that's another option as well. All right, Stacy had to leave us. So this is what we mean by ongoing collaboration, right? Really forming that relationship where it's not just on your terms or your branch's terms, but on the other groups as well. And the other thing I heard is you were talking, Carmen, about presentations, I believe, and
Yes, there were presentations. There was something um, where you have initiate calls for action in response to current events. I noticed in some of the newsletters, because there's an upcoming election, that some of the branches are also doing things with voter registration on the college campuses and specifically targeting women. And so because of the issues that are on the national ballot, so that's also being done. Some speakers, I can't remember, I know the branch, but I can't remember the name of the speaker that they have coming, but I was impressed. I thought that it would be an interesting event. So, and it's all related to women um, and advancement of women's issues.
very good. So what I heard there in alignment with the strategic plan is that I think a lot of us, a lot of our branches are, is there another AAUW meeting going on? It's like everyone's dropping off right now. I know we meet kind of late. I do apologize for that, but this is what's best for my schedule. Um, yeah. So anyway, I was just curious because we had lots of folks dropping off right now. But as I was saying, I think branches are doing really well or better. There's always room for improvement with mission focused programming. And that's what I heard, Carmen saying is that uh, branches are asking themselves with their programming, how does this relate to our mission? Right. I know my branch board has had that conversation for the last year or two where we can't just do a program because most of the members are interested in it. We have to align it with the mission, right? Just like we're aligning things with the strategic plan. What we're asking you to do in this strategic plan is go one step further and not just make it mission focused, but have an action component. And it sounds like there was a little bit of that with the ballot, but some kind of call to action, right? And Sherman, feel free to jump in, because I like the way that you say this, but a lot of our programming is educational, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Keep up the educational, but for especially a lot of potential younger members, younger generations, we could go online and watch a YouTube video or a TED Talk with a speaker or go to a webinar and not have to leave our homes for the same education, the same knowledge building or knowledge-based programming, instead of going to a meeting. Not to say that there aren't benefits to doing that in person, coming together, but as far as the education, the knowledge, there are other ways to do that than go to an AAUW meeting. But if you tell us there will be this meeting and afterwards we are going to together make postcards for voters to get out the vote, or we are going to take this petition related to this women's issue and we're going to try to get signatures, or whatever it is, right? That there's an action, there is a call to action specifically that's going to draw more members, and it builds community when you are working on the action together. So something I talked about with the branch development committee at committee day is more intergenerational programming. Like, I've been to an event, it's been a few years, where the kids, including mine, made the postcards. They decorated them. They put the stickers on them. These were postcards for voters. They put the stickers on them. They drew on them. They colored on them. And Uh, and then the rest of us, did the rest to get the postcard ready. And I think, granted, I'm a mom, I'm biased, my kids were there. I think it's very charming to get a postcard decorated by a child telling you to vote. So, and this aligns right with this strategic plan. It brings in more intergenerational involvement. Um, those are potential members right there. So those are of
Lata,
what programming you can be doing that aligns with the plan. But would anyone else like to talk about the programming they are doing in terms of the strategic plan before we move on? I will then take a, go ahead.
I was just going to say we have a quiet group tonight.
It's late. Maybe we'll try these at 6:30. Let's see. Let's see how it goes. I'll have to make some changes to the calendar and all to do that, which doesn't sound fun right now. But if we had 31 registered and we had only about 12 here, that might be saying it's too late. We'll see.
I can share an idea that Sacramento, the Sacramento branch and the Citrus Heights American River branch are doing a joint meeting next month. Or yeah, we're still in September, in October, and we do it every other year. In the election year in which we have ballot propositions. And so we are doing, it's open to the community as well as both branches. But the thing that makes it a little bit unique is that we have the McGeorge School of Law students. There's a class that's on state law or election law or something like that. And so their professor brings them, they research the propositions, and then they present them to our group. Kind of not really pros and cons, just kind of this is what the proposition is, what it says, this is what it says it will do. And so it's informational, but also it, helps it, lets us interact with these college students, with their professor. The last time that we had one, I think that at least half of them were women, which was great. And so it's introducing them to AUW. And so it's kind of a nice connection to have. We've been using the same McGeorge class. I mean, it's not the same students every year, but the professor for, I think, probably at least the last 10 years. So we have a good relationship with her, and then it's not very expensive. Each branch kicks in $100, and we buy the kids like a $10 Amazon gift card or something like that, just to thank them for their time. But it's kind of a win-win for them. They're learning how to speak in front of a larger group of people. We're learning how to, about the ballots, and it's a really intergenerational kind of a meeting. So plus it hits our public policy points, and it's kind of a win-win all around.
That is great. I froze there for a second, but that's why I'm off camera. But what I like about that too is that the action doesn't have to be a big action that you do right at that moment, right? It can be an action that members follow up on later, like in learning about different propositions or on the ballot. We are a nonpartisan organization, so we can't endorse, right, partisan candidates, but we can talk about the issues.
Right.
So yes, I like that example too, especially with the elections coming up. And I was actually trying to see if any book groups, because I know DEI book groups are popular, which is great. But what I think is we need to keep moving from the educational to the transformational, as I've been saying with our organization. So I was trying to see if any groups are reading Kamala Harris's memoir, J.D. Vance's Hillbilly Elegy. There's another book I read about in The Guardian about a queer South Asian American woman who grew up in Appalachia. And her experience was very different from J.D. Vance's. And so these are books, you know, DEI books related to uh, the elections. Now you'd have
This,
to think, uh-huh.
I just have a note here. I don't know, am I allowed to say the branch? Am I allowed to say the name of the branch that has a book group that is reading something interesting?
Yeah,
Okay,
if it's kudos, we'll say the name of the branch. If it's
okay,
problematic, we'll we'll make it
okay.
general. Yeah.
One of the branches in Northern California, the Benicia Vallejo branch, has a book group, and they are reading a book entitled Master Slave Husband Wife. And
Mm,
it's a true story about William and Ellen Craft during an escape from slavery and their subsequent pivotal role in the international abolitionist movement. So we did have one book group in the Northern California area that is looking at history, really, you know, history, but it relates to DEI though. I just wanted to give them a shout out
yeah.
and say, good job.
Well, our book group is reading one too, Carmen.
Yes, we are. And I am reading it, and it's at Sacramento. It's an Indigenous people's history of the United States. And it's a very detailed book. I read some of it today, but it is very, very informative. Although that is sort of our mission with the Equity Book Group here in Sacramento, was reading those types of books. And we've read some fabulous books over the last 3 years that I have been a member. Charmin is the lead in the group, and we've learned a tremendous amount. And I think that it's important for each of us to continue our individual learning journeys. It makes us better, it makes us more open. And I think in the long run, it makes us an organization that is more appealing to new members. So,
I agree. Yeah. And I have a question related to that in just a minute, but I wanted to show you this document that I'd mentioned earlier on our state website that has holidays and religious observances. We worked on this over the summer. Ah, yes. Thank you, Melinda. Yes, I do see a lot of banned books reading groups, and I think that's great. I think discussions on what those groups do, how they're discussing the readings, how they relate to the DEI strategic plan would be great. I would love to hear about that if at future meetings, if anyone can share. Because I think there's a lot of potential there. So, this, Charmin, remind me how to get here to this because I just have to put it in search when I go to the state website. Where is this hidden?
I think that's the easiest way is to search it, but I think it's probably under branch tools. It's probably
Okay,
actually in the DEI tile, but it might be under
okay.
branch tools as well.
All right. I will check on that. Maybe I'll put something about it in the next B2B so everyone is aware that this is in here. So that is again not very pretty, but it gives you all the holidays and we updated that this summer. So,
good.
yeah. So, a question for all of you before related to the book groups. Oh, Melinda had something else. Our October meeting will cover a questionnaire we sent out to school board candidates on their view of inclusive curriculum, Title IX, and STEM programs. Excellent. So, this reminds me of something else I've discussed is collaborating with your public policy committees and teams as well, if you have them in your branch, because they're already doing work related to DEI. You can have calls to action together in your programming with public policy that relate to the DEI strategic plan. So I appreciate those examples, Melinda. When I was looking at a lot of the newsletters, oh, and yes, and Melinda confirmed it's a public policy committee. When I was looking at newsletters, I saw a lot of book groups were discussing Percival Everett's James and is it Kristen Hanna's Women? And so I was wondering what book list or recommendations they're drawing from where so many branches are discussing the same books.
Hmm.
I'm not familiar with those. Percival Everett was a professor at my alma mater. I don't know if he's still there, but I haven't read his work. So, does anyone know why those books are
Are they
part of
new? Are they newly published in the last year? I think a lot of book groups do newly published books.
They might be, but those two books showed up on a lot of book group
Hmm.
lists. So I was curious about that. But anyway, if anyone happens to find out, let me know. I'm curious. I'm going to stop recording. Oh, the women just seemed interesting and had been read by one of our members. Great. I just wondered if there was some AUW national like book list that I just wasn't aware of, since multiple branches were reading these two books.